2 investigations from the case files of Lieutenant Joe Kenda. First, a 9-month-old baby is rushed to the hospital under mysterious circumstances.
This could involve child abuse involving a death. That's not something I take lightly.
These people should not be among us. They're dangerous. They're evil.
To catch a monster, investigators must go undercover. But they quickly find themselves in the crosshairs.
They planned to have the lead detective, who was me, killed.
We knew he was a rat. We didn't know how much he wanted.
Then, a beloved grandmother is gunned down in broad daylight.
When you empty the gun, that's because you're angry. And angry speaks to motive.
I had no idea it could come to that.
He could have stopped at any time, but he took deliberate acts to execute what he wanted to do.
People can be very disappointing. They can do incredibly evil things. In my view, there's nothing more evil than hurting a child. There's one thing that never changes: murder. A life has been taken. Their stories are now my stories. I never know where a case is going to lead, but I'll never stop until it's solved. Somebody has to look out for the victim. If you kill, I will find you.
In a diner on the west side of Colorado Springs, a man enters with a mission.
Richardson?
Yeah. And he recognized the description of the man that he was supposed to meet.
Coffee?
Thank you.
So you understand what you're supposed to do?
Some people you want me to scare, right?
It's not scare.
You mean?
This is all the information you need. You need to kill the mother first. And then I need you to go back and kill the baby. You understand?
Yeah, I do.
I was outside the city doing an interview in the county. I was on my way back.
That's to Kenda.
Go for Kenda.
Because radio equipment in the 80s and 90s wasn't that good. There were a lot of dead spots, particularly on the outskirts of the city.
Memorial Hospital received an infant in critical condition. Child unresponsive.
I make out the words infant, child, and unresponsive. And the concern of the dispatcher was this could involve child abuse involving a death.
Time for Kenda.
That's not something I take lightly.
At the hospital,
Hey,
Kenda is briefed by Detective J.D. Walker.
so what do we got? The victim's name is Samantha DeFazio, 9 months old. Her parents, Tony and Stella, they're in the room with her now.
Tony and Stella are young, 24. He's selling insurance, she's working as tech support, and she's going to school.
The daycare worker who called it in, Wanda Crawford, she's in the waiting room. Wanda Crawford cares for 5 kids in her private residence.
Feel better?
And she was taking care of Samantha at the time of this situation. So what happened? The nurse doesn't know. We have limited information right now. At this point in the investigation, all we know is that Samantha suddenly stopped breathing. Side to side.
Outside the hospital room, Kenda and Walker get a closer look at a grim scene.
In the hospital, Samantha looks like one of those dolls that you learn to do. Covered with tubes, she's got lines going everywhere. It must have been heartbreaking for her parents.
Excuse me, doctor.
Yes.
Can you tell us the baby's condition? The most important thing on a child abuse investigation is the injuries and the timeline of those injuries.
She's suffering from a subdural hematoma.
And so I learned from that doctor that Samantha is suffering from a brain bleed.
The prognosis does not look good, but we're going to do everything we can.
And the was injured at daycare?
Not necessarily. It could have happened at home and worsened later. We have some more tests to run before we know for sure, and I'll try to keep you posted.
Let's see what Juan Crawford has to say.
Wanda is the last person in contact with this baby that observes some sort of injury.
Miss Crawford?
So we want to speak to her to determine what may have happened.
I'm Lieutenant Kendall. This is Detective Walker.
Is she gonna be okay?
Oh, I'm sorry to say it's not looking good. The doctor's doing everything they can.
I can't believe this is happening. Poor, sweet baby.
Wanda Crawford looks like absolutely the person you would want to trust your child with. She just seems like rock solid and really concerned.
You can start by telling us a little bit about your daycare service.
Well, I run it out of my home, but, it's just me. I don't have any other employees.
She reports that she is licensed by the state of Colorado, and she's been babysitting Samantha for 7 months.
Do you have any children of your own? Are you married?
I don't have kids, but yes, I am married.
Her husband is James Darnell. He doesn't have any part of the daycare center, but he is a school bus driver for elementary kids. So what happened this morning? What time did Samantha arrive?
Well, Stella dropped her off around 8 on her way to work. And then I guess it was like around 9:30 or so that I went to check on Samantha and noticed, Samantha was having issues.
Wanda said when she got closer, it appeared that the baby had thrown up a bunch of mucus and was having trouble breathing.
I thought maybe she was having a seizure, so I called 911 right away.
What do you think caused Samantha's injuries?
I'm not really sure. I would talk to Stella. Maybe something happened at home before she dropped Samantha off.
In my experience, there's a lot of child abuse committed by the parent. Through disciplining the child, if you lose your temper and jerk on them, you could cause injury. All right, well, thanks for talking to us.
Let me know if you need me.
What do you think?
I'm not sure. Let's talk to the parents. Why don't you take Tony out to Stella?
During their conversations, Kenda and Walker will be looking for signs of a disconnect between parent and child.
Tony, I'm Detective Walker, Colorado Springs Police. I need to have a word with you.
Sorry. If a parent refers to their child as it, for example, they don't use the child's name. It's a distance that is between them and that child. So if you hear that, then the alarms go off.
Walk me through the morning before work.
Just like any other morning. Help get Samantha ready for daycare.
Yes.
Tony told me he strapped the baby in.
I love you, babe.
Love you too.
And Samantha waved at him and said, Dada. And they drove away.
At the other end of the hall, Kenda is listening to Stella's version of events.
It was a normal day. We got Samantha ready for daycare, and I dropped her off with Wanda around 8.
Stella said, all I know is Samantha was in perfect shape when I left her with Wanda Crawford.
How would you describe your home life?
Good. I mean, it's hard because we both have to work, but it's worth it. Samantha brings so much joy in our lives. I just can't believe this is happening to us.
Baby Samantha was absolutely the light of Tony and Stella's lives. It was a planned pregnancy. They really wanted this baby. There's nothing you can do to even touch the amount of grief they have.
I'm very sorry. Thank you.
Paging Dr. Young. Dr. Young, emergency 3.
So what do you think?
What he told me made sense.
Yeah, Stella too.
to both Walker and I, they come across as quite truthful.
What do you say we stop by Wanda's house? See if we can pick up some sort of lead there.
Yeah, that might be our best shot. I'll meet you over there.
All right.
Wanda's home is a potential crime scene. It occurred in her house. So let's go see what it can tell us, if anything.
Try again.
Where is she?
Oh, hi, detectives. I hope you haven't been staying out here too long.
Wanda looks like she's under the influence of alcohol and acts like it. She's sort of a little bit wandering in her speech and on her feet.
Miss Crawford, have you been drinking?
Well, yeah, I had a couple of scotches. I couldn't stop thinking about that poor baby, and I needed to take my mind off of what happened.
Well, that's a little odd. Okay, fine. You're home.
You mind if we take a look inside your house?
Come right in. This is my husband, Jim. He just got home from work. This is where I take the kids, play. It's a little bit messy. I haven't had time to clean up, though.
Nothing about this home indicates anything other than a normal type of residence you would see who was in the daycare providing business.
Do you have a copy of your daycare license and the CPR certificate the state requires?
You bet. Let me go get it.
You might turn that off for the time being.
So what, you're gonna interrogate my wife?
Wanda's husband, Jim, is not quite the nurturant, warm counterpart that you would expect to this woman.
He doesn't talk a whole lot. I kind of felt that he had something that he was hiding.
Okay, here you go. One signed daycare license and one signed CPR certification.
Can I hold on to these for now?
Sure, honey. Whatever you need.
Where was the baby when you found her?
Oh, right over there next to the chair. That's where she threw up.
So I go over to where Samantha was laying and started feeling the carpet.
It's totally dry.
That's because I caught most of the vomit in a washcloth when she threw up.
So then I asked her where the cloth was, and she said, I've already washed it and put it away. I felt she was covering her tracks.
Wanda, we need you to be totally straight with us. You're not telling us.
And then she says something out of the blue that's completely different from what she said earlier in the day.
I already told you everything. I came in to check on Samantha. She was standing there drinking her bottle. She fell back and hit her head.
Is that so?
Really? She's changed her story completely to something that's a physical impossibility. 9-month-old baby standing up and drinking at the same time, keeping its balance? Please, not possible. Not at age 9 months.
So you actually saw this happen?
Uh-huh.
Wanda, you're being a little careless with the truth. We are trying to determine the nature of the injury to this child, the 9-month-old baby named Samantha DeFazio, and who may be responsible for such a terrible thing. And we're beginning to be very concerned about the daycare provider, Wanda Crawford.
All right, Wanda, we're looking into a few things. We'll be in touch.
Okay, I'll be here.
She's full of crap. Let's get hold of that 911 call.
Sounds good.
The 911 Emergency Contact Center maintains recordings of all calls. They can produce a cassette tape from their master tape.
Ready?
So we listen to it.
I run a daycare over here on Rushmore Drive, and one of the babies doesn't appear to be breathing.
Can you perform CPR on the baby?
No, I don't know CPR.
Wait, what?
We have her CPR certification that she had in her home. But yet if she doesn't know anything about CPR, then how does she have a certification?
She's either grossly incompetent or she's lying.
Something's not right.
I'll see what I can find.
Sounds good. I checked her status as a care provider, and I learned that there were 6 complaints.
In one of those, a 6-month-old baby had been found comatose and unresponsive in Wanda's care, which is remarkably similar to the current circumstances of Samantha DeFazio.
Lieutenant. Can't say I'm not surprised.
We submitted our certification that she had for CPR to CBI.
Wow.
They determined it was a forgery.
Unbelievable. The woman's a complete fraud. Yeah, I wouldn't want my kids anywhere near her. All right, thank you.
To make this a chargeable, winnable case, we need medical evidence to say what exactly happened to this child and when did it happen.
In order to learn more about baby Samantha's injuries, Kenda and Walker returned to the hospital.
The doctors have now completed their thorough examination of this child.
And that's all in addition to the head and brain injuries I told you about earlier.
The child has serious and permanent nervous system injuries. The child's retinas were detached from her eyes, and the child is blind.
I think it's a classic example of shaken baby syndrome.
Shaken baby syndrome is a medical diagnosis of picking up a small child and violently shaking them, causing their head to snap back and forth.
The number one reason for shaken baby syndrome is the crying. If babies can cry relentlessly, it can all be very trying, and it starts to make you crazy. It doesn't take that much shaking to kill a baby. It's hard.
Probably just before the medical personnel arrived. Maybe 15 minutes.
The child had been in Wanda Crawford's home, by Wanda's own admission, alone with the child for 90 minutes when she called for medical assistance.
Dedicated dispatch.
So now, there's only one suspect, and it's Wanda Crawford.
While Kenda and Walker head back to the station, Patrol picks up Wanda to give her one last chance to come clean.
You're crazy, okay? I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't hurt that child.
Wanda, we have evidence that shows...
I don't care about your damn evidence. You're both a bunch of damn fools.
Wanda has moved from being Grandma Wanda into a shrieking woman, denying everything and calling us everything but human beings.
Why not place you under arrest? Please stand up.
Oh, you son of a bitch. I hope you both rot in hell.
Get up.
Oh.
But even without a confession, Kenda has a pretty good idea on what happened to baby Samantha.
Stella DeFazio arrives as usual.
Hi, Miss Wanda.
Provides the baby to Wanda Crawford.
Okay, see you later.
Bye.
Everything's pretty normal.
Uh-oh, that sounds like Samantha. Let's go see what's wrong, okay?
She heard Samantha crying in her crib upstairs.
Samantha, what's wrong, huh?
As babies do, but 90 minutes worth.
Hold still.
Wanda Crawford had a bad temper. And at that particular moment, that child crying was the last straw for her.
Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! You're a kid!
And she picked that child up and violently shook the child.
Oh my God. Oh God.
Wanda shook Samantha so violently that the baby's turning black and not breathing. She's scared. She doesn't know what to do.
Yes, I'm running daycare over here.
She then became concerned that baby was going to die, but she would have even greater difficulty explaining. So she called 911, and it unravels from there. The result of this, it puts her in jail.
While Wanda's arrest does bring some comfort to the DeFazio family, the injuries she inflicted on their daughter will never heal.
As a result of Samantha's injuries, she will spend the rest of her life in a wheelchair. She can't see, she can't hear, she can't eat by herself. It's tragic.
Wanda Crawford is convicted and sentenced to the Colorado State Penitentiary for 18 years. She's 65 years old. It is likely she will not survive her sentence.
But unfortunately, Wanda's story is far from over. Faced with the prospect of a life behind bars, she desperately searches for a way out.
Hey, Jenny. I hear you're getting out of here in a few weeks. You thought any more about what I asked you?
What happens with Wanda Crawford is from the day she is sentenced, she starts developing her escape.
I'll get you the money once it's done. Make it look like a suicide.
And that escape is to put a hit on Stella DeFazio and Samantha DeFazio.
You know, Wanda, I always knew you were evil. I didn't know that you were that evil. Wanda Crawford's been convicted of child abuse, and Wanda's attempting to hire an assassin to kill Stella DeFazio and baby Samantha.
Named Jenny Larkin about doing the killing for.
We get a call from the Department of Corrections.
We get a lot of jailhouse snitches that want to supply information to lighten their sentence.
Detectives meet with a prison informant to learn the details of Wanda's scheme.
Please have a seat. Lieutenant Kendall, Detective Walker. Thank you for coming to talk to us. Can you tell us exactly what Wanda told you?
She's been looking for a way to get out of prison for a while now. She said when her husband Jim came to visit that they figured out how to do it.
Wanda wants to make it look like a suicide with a suicide note stating that Stella's the one that injured her baby, not Wanda.
Once everyone reads the note saying I didn't do it, they have no other option but to exonerate me. It's crazy. Look, there's $5,000 in it for you. My husband will give you all the information once you get out.
So Jim Darnell is involved in this plan too. But to build a case against him, we're going to have to show he has active involvement.
Would you be willing to help us just a little bit more?
Like how?
We wired the inmate and had her ask Wanda how to commit the murder.
What if she figures out I'm lying?
She won't. She'll stick to the script.
She's told to tell Wanda that she's unwilling to do it herself because she's never done that sort of thing, but she has this cousin.
He said he'd do it if the money was right.
My husband Jim and I only got $5,000. Will that be enough?
I don't know, probably. I'll have to check it out.
All right, here's what we're gonna need him to do, okay?
Wanda came up with this plan, how she wanted it done.
And then you gotta make a suicide note so real convincing.
She wants Stella DeFazio to write a suicide note saying, I hurt my baby and I made Mrs. Crawford take the blame. May God forgive me.
Oh yeah, and one other thing. Tell your cousin he's gotta kill Stella's baby.
What? The baby?
The kid's gonna suffer with these injuries her whole life. All right, it's the only humane thing to do.
Wanda, we knew you were a rat. We didn't know how much of one. Now we do.
Tell your cousin if he has any questions, talk to my husband Jim, okay?
These people should not be among us. They're dangerous, they're evil, they're without remorse. It just makes you want to go to the bathroom and vomit.
At this point in the investigation, we had enough on Wanda Crawford to charge her with the solicitation of murder charge. What we didn't have was the husband, James Darnell.
In order to nab James Darnell, Colorado Bureau of Investigations agent Lou Thompson is assigned to go undercover as Jenny's cousin.
You got bus work picked out yet?
Not yet. Let's go with the word smoothie.
All right, on smoothie, we'll move in.
Now, does an undercover agent have to be an actor? Not really. You don't have to say much. You're supposed to be a stone killer. No one expects you to be talkative.
What we're looking for is for Jim to tell our undercover officer,
Richardson?
Yeah.
what he wants him to do. But we don't know if Jim Darnell is armed or what he's going to do if this thing goes sour.
So you understand what you're supposed to do?
It's the people you want me to scare, right?
No, it's not scare.
You mean?
Yeah, that's right.
Jim confirms that I want the baby dead, I want the mother dead, I want them all dead. Because I don't want to be alone. I want my wife out of prison.
There's one more thing that we need you to do.
Jim hands a struck note to say,
Have Stella write this out just like it is. Before you do the job, you understand?
Yeah, I do.
And now we have sufficient evidence to convict everybody involved. We're ready. Let's arrest them.
Waitress, can I get a smoothie over here?
Bruce! Keep your hands up! Get up now! Get up!
Garage! They're under arrest.
Slimy. Hey, back!
All right, let's go. Let's go.
And the darling husband, Jim, is handcuffed. Taken to the county jail on this charge of solicitation to commit murder. And what do you know? Jim is almost as smart as his wife, and he speaks to an inmate.
Jim wanted to have a judge, a senior deputy district attorney, and the lead detective, me, killed for sending his wife to prison.
And what does this inmate do? Dutifully reports it, because it might be an advantage to him to so do. So now Jim gets hammered again for a second charge of criminal solicitation.
In 1998, James Darnell pleads guilty to criminal solicitation of first-degree murder. Wanda Crawford is given an additional 32 years on top of her original 18-year sentence.
Happily, Wanda Crawford never got out of prison to hurt anybody again. She died in prison at the age of 87, and so, sorry, vengeance is mine on this one. She lived a good damn long life behind bars, and well, she should have.
The real tragedy of this case is Samantha DeFazio. She missed out on so much in life because of one cruel person. She died before her 19th birthday. If you are frustrated with a child, walk away. The frustration will pass. If you succumb to your emotions and you cause enormous harm to that person, someone just like me is going to show up and grab you by the throat.
Coming up, a cold-blooded murder in broad daylight has Kenda on a desperate search for answers.
It's unusual to have a person over the age of 60 suffer multiple gunshots. Those kinds of crimes are reserved for the young.
I'm gonna get you for that one.
The 12-year-old boy and a 12-year-old girl were playing in the backyard of an apartment complex. It was hot. It was summer, and they were just having a really good time.
Is that firecrackers?
Let's go check it out.
They come around the corner, and what they wind up seeing is a woman covered in blood, slumped face up against the front of the building.
Within the hour, Kenda arrives at the apartment complex.
This is more of a retirement community, so the people there are generally older and they're naturally curious just as much as anybody else.
Some of these people view this as entertainment from their perspective. There's an old man sitting in a lawn chair, drinking a beer, and watching the proceedings like it's a movie.
She had multiple gunshot wounds on her head and chest. We just got word that she was DOA at Memorial Hospital.
They identified her as Dolores Wells. She's 64 years old, and she's a resident of the complex.
My mom moved into this apartment complex. She would meet people, and they would like her right away. And my mother was the strongest person that I've ever known.
Looking at the crime scene, there's blood where the victim had slumped against the wall.
We also found these shell casings.
Wow, that's a lot.
Near the blood there are 7 expended casings. The first indicator of that is a rage killing. Dolores probably knows the person responsible for her demise. When you empty the gun, it's because you're angry. And angry speaks to motive.
I need a seer! I need to see her.
You can't go. It's okay.
Let her through, I got her.
A 10-year-old girl shows up on the scene. She's visibly upset. More so than just somebody being shot and killed. Something's personal here.
What's your name?
Jill.
Okay, Jill. What's going on?
She says that she was playing next door in another friend's apartment when she heard loud pops. And she looked outside and she saw a crowd gathering. And then she saw an ambulance arrive.
I saw them putting the person on the stretcher, and I saw it was my grandmom. I didn't know what to do, so I just waited for the police to come.
I'm very sorry you had to see that.
Is she okay?
Well, she's in the hospital right now. We're not sure yet.
We're in a situation where this is not the time to tell her that her grandmother has died. We need emotional support for her, and it's not here.
Is your mother here?
No, she's back in Washington. I was here visiting my grandmom for my birthday.
Do you have any other family that lives nearby?
Yes, my Aunt Mary.
Do you know her phone number?
I think so.
So I had one of my officers notify the aunt by telephone and advise her to meet this child at police headquarters.
Okay, Jill, this officer's going to take care of you until your aunt gets here. Thanks for being so brave.
As I watched the child being escorted out to a police car, I noticed that the old man I first saw when I got there is still in his lawn chair, still drinking a beer, and he nods his acknowledgement to me. And I thought that was a little odd. Let that thought pass and go back to what I'm doing.
Less than an hour later, Mary Labb, Jill's aunt, arrives at headquarters.
Baby, I'm so sorry. You must be so scared.
After they told me what happened, I just totally lost it.
Yeah, Mary, Grandma's hurt. She's hurt bad.
I can imagine that was quite a shock for her to be with my mom that morning and then to have something like that happen to her.
Ma'am, I know you were given information over the phone. I apologize for the way it was handled. Can I speak to you just for a minute before you go home?
Okay, you wait right here and then we'll go home.
She's able to tell us a little bit of the background of our victim. She says that her victim has lived in this apartment complex for a while and seemed to be loved by everybody.
She really loved her family, especially her grandkids. She just got her citizenship at age 65.
Mom was born in Trieste, Italy. She was in her 30s when she came to this country and was very determined in pretty much everything that she did.
Back at the crime scene,
Nobody seen or heard anything?
Kenda continues to search for clues leading to Dolores Wells' killer.
We're talking to all the residents in the building, and they all pretty much say that Dolores Wells was wonderful. She was everybody's grandmother.
Oh no, that's terrible.
She'd love to cook and cooked big meals for some of the residents. She would make cookies for the children that lived in the nearby complexes, and they describe her as a sweet. One resident said that he had heard that Dolores had argued with one of the other tenants in the building.
I don't know him that well, but it's always yelling at someone, especially kids. Your typical angry old man.
He said he hangs around with another old guy, and they're both kind of mean old guys, and they sit in their lawn chairs and drink. So your thought returns to that man sitting in that lawn chair. He doesn't look upset. He's not distressed. He's unusual. It's not against the law to be unusual, but it's interesting to me when you're unusual 50 feet away from a dead woman.
Excuse me. I'm Detective Kenda.
He's apparently found a way to breed beer under his chair because he still has a beer.
Do you know anything about what happened here today?
You mean with Dolores?
That's right.
Yeah, it's real simple.
He turns and says,
Shot her.
I shot that bitch. Well, my. We're investigating the death of 64-year-old Dolores Wells, a beloved Italian grandmother shot to death in front of her apartment complex. And we've encountered a guy sitting in a lawn chair having a beer who calmly announces that he's the person that did that.
I'm sorry, what did you just say?
I said I shot that bitch.
There are people who falsely confess to crimes to gain attention. They are generally older. They are lonely.
What's your name?
James Chapman. Friends call me Jim. Once I got left.
It's also entirely possible he shot Dolores Wells 6 times in the chest.
All right, Mr. Chapman. If what you're saying is true, I'm going to have to place you under arrest. Stand up, put your hands behind your back.
The fact that he's an old man is meaningless. Policy dictates felony arrest requires handcuffs. For now, we own him.
Go ahead and put in a request for a search warrant for his apartment.
Okay, I'm on it.
I'm going to head back inside. There's someone I want to talk to.
To learn more about Jim Chapman, Kenda sits down with Jim's best friend, Case Oman.
Does Jim have any mental issues?
No, he's just mad at the world.
Mr. Ullman explains that Jim's had 4 wives. He has 2 or 3 kids he doesn't really know, and a couple of grandkids. They're all back in Louisiana, and they don't like him. And he's very happy with that.
So how does he know Dolores Wells?
Funny thing, they used to be close.
When my mom first moved into that place, she really didn't have any transportation. And she would cook him dinners for him taking her to the store. He seemed like a nice man.
Unfortunately, he wanted to be more than friends, and she had no interest.
Look, Jim, we talked about this.
I don't understand, Dolores. What is it about me that you find so repellent?
Jim, I like you, just not in that way.
You just like the rest of them. You're an ungrateful bitch.
You need to leave. Get out.
Don't worry, I don't want nothing to do with an ungrateful bitch like you anyway.
You're just a sad old man. Pathetic.
My mom had mentioned that he started butting into her life and bothering her. My mom would never back down. She would come back with something.
So what happened between the two of them today?
All I know is Jim and I were outside having a beer when Dolores comes walking by.
Mr. Ullman reports Dolores Wells comes out of her apartment with trash bags, and Jim Chapman glared at her.
Next thing I know, Jim gets up and walks away. He comes back. He had a gun in his...
Hitting him. What's he gonna do? Oh my God. He's got a gun.
Dolores!
No!
And then he heard 5 or 6 gunshots.
With little doubt that Jim Chapman is the killer, Kenda heads back to the station to hear the full story from Jim himself.
We want as much knowledge as we can possibly have to present to a jury.
I've got some more questions for you, Mr. Chapman.
Let's just get this over with so I can go to jail and get a peaceful night's sleep for a change.
In a jail, Jim? You think it's peaceful in a jail?
So tell me what happened. Why did you decide to shoot Miss Wells?
That woman was evil. I just couldn't take it anymore.
Jim says that he and Dolores were oil and water. They never got along. Well, that's not what the witnesses said. He claims she spread rumors about him in the neighborhood, and she did all these terrible things, none of which were true.
It all started with that brat granddaughter of hers raising hell outside of my apartment. Hey! Knock it off! Take that damn ball and get the hell out of here!
Chapman says when he did that, Dolores Wells came out of her apartment, looked at him, and said, "You cannot speak to my granddaughter like that."
You are just a miserable old drunk.
Dolores!
No wonder your family won't talk to you. Go back in your room and drink yourself back to sleep.
Chapman says that he was furious. The longer he thought about it, the more angry he became with what Dolores had said to him.
A little later on, Dolores walks out, taking out the trash, and that's when Jim decided to go upstairs and get the gun.
Not only does he go get a gun, he makes certain the gun is loaded with a maximum number of bullets. The weapon will carry 6 rounds in the magazine and 1 in the chamber. Jim made sure that 7th round was in the chamber.
What Jim has told us so far clearly constitutes premeditated murder. He could have stopped at any time, but he took deliberate acts to execute what he wanted to do.
Dolores! She came back from the dumpster, and he said, I want you to keep your mouth shut about me.
Jim!
He said at that moment,
No!
He pulled the gun and shot her once. She fell to the ground, stunned, and he felt he was sort of stunned too, but then he stepped forward and pumped the rest of the bullets into her body.
I remember my mom telling me they had words in passing, but I had no idea it would come to that.
I got no regrets. Got everything that was coming to her.
Oh, Jimmy, you need several psychiatrists. One's not going to be enough.
The search of Chapman's home provides the physical evidence to back up his confession.
We find a Jennings model J22 caliber semi-automatic pistol. It's pretty obvious that there's our murder weapon.
Jim Chapman is convicted of first-degree murder and is sentenced to life in prison.
Even though we didn't have her physically, she'll be with us forever. And my sons idolized her grandma. My son even got a tattoo of his grandmother on his arm so that she would be honored and never forgotten.
An angry old man who has no control over his temper, who takes someone's life for ultimately no reason at all except she stood up to him. What a waste for everyone.